Although the phrase Gilded Age in American history often evokes images of mammoth estates nestling the eastern seaboard, robber barons filling their coffers to the brim with industrial funds culled from the Midwest's factories, and transatlantic family alliances intermingling between England and the United States, there was a simultaneous quiet cultural and social revolution burgeoning in the City of Angels, thousands of miles away. You see, the massive expansion of the then California territory, following the discovery of gold in the 1840s, led to unprecedented growth and opportunity, and Los Angeles, once a modest pueblo, became a thriving urban center by the late 19th century, attracting soon-to-be legendary dynasties who sought to shape its future. Today we explore these pioneering, visionary lineages who transformed the temperate Southern California landscape with their grand ambitions, constructing iconic landmarks, establishing vast industries, and laying the groundwork for the second-largest city in the country and the cultural capital of the world. One step into the city of Beverly Hills, where the essence of luxury is not just lived, but breathed, is often said to cast a spell of opulence that blankets the land. Indeed, this sanctuary of Southern California wealth, with its air perfumed by affluence, invites you into a world where every corner tells a story of grandeur. Here, amid the lush boulevards, stand guardians of history, majestic stone edifices that whisper tales of a bygone era's extravagance. However, one monument, in particular, beckons with a presence that transcends its physical bounds, serving as a gateway to the saga of an old money family whose vision carved the destiny of Beverly Hills from the dreams of giants. This is your entrance into the legacy of the Doheny family, an emblem of early American prosperity that shaped this enclave into a citadel of luxury. Coming from humble origins to a level of wealth matched only by the name Rockefeller, their foresight transformed the Californian landscape, melding their dreams with the earth to craft an oasis of elegance. In today's episode, we invite you on a voyage through their opulent rags-to-riches tale, exploring how dreams etched in stone can define the heart of a city as we describe. The old money family that built Beverly Hills, the Doheny dynasty. The 1920s roared for the Doheny family, with Edward L. Doheny's pockets bulging from striking black gold in Los Angeles back in 1892. By this jazz-infused decade, he wasn't just rolling in dough, he was out-rolling the likes of John D. Rockefeller. Picture it, Doheny, a titan of the oil scene, sitting atop a mountain of cash with a net worth breezing past $100 million by 1925, and that's a cool $1.67 billion today, in case you're wondering. And Doheny wasn't just a lucky prospector. Alongside his sidekick, Charles A. Canfield, he hit the oil jackpot in Mexico, turning them into the world's oil kings. By 1902, Doheny's Huasteca Petroleum Company was sprawling over 448,000 acres in Mexico, pumping out 85% of the country's oil, making him the biggest independent oil producer on the planet. But let's not sugarcoat it. While Doheny's wallet got fatter, the benefits for Mexico's people and government were, well, less than a trickle. Then there's the pièce de résistance of Doheny's empire, the Greystone Mansion. Constructed in 1928 for a whopping $3.1 million, equal to around $53 million in today's money, this Tudor revival masterpiece was a gift to his son, Edward Ned Doheny Jr. Designed by the star architect Gordon B. Kaufman, this 55-room, 46,000-square-foot behemoth sat on 16 lush acres, claiming the title of California's priciest home at the time. Thus, if walls could talk, Greystone's environs would probably just chuckle and say, "Expensive? Darling, I'm priceless." But Greystone was just the jewel in the crown of the Doheny real estate empire. The family also owned a French Gothic chateau in the exclusive Chester Place, transforming Doheny Sr. into the unofficial king of this gated community. If you're picturing Monopoly, you're not far off, except in this game, Doheny was playing with real houses and real money. So, while the 20s were roaring for many, they were practically singing for the Dohenys, with Edward L. leading the chorus from his oil-drenched throne, overshadowing even the mightiest of moguls. But the Doheny family wasn't just about opulent mansions and oil gushers. They had a knack for turning everything they touched into a display of grandeur, including the great outdoors and the automobile industry. They transformed Chester Place into a sprawling private park and generously gifted a chunk of their coastal paradise in Dana Point to the state of California, creating what's now known as Doheny State Beach. And their philanthropy didn't stop at the beach. They were also instrumental in the growth of academia in Los Angeles, doling out parcels of land for campuses like Mount St. Mary's College and erecting buildings at Loyola Marymount University. Clearly, when the Dohenys went into philanthropy mode, they went big. But the cars. The Dohenys took luxury to the streets with a fleet of custom-built automobiles that turned heads and set the standard for high-class travel. Edward and Ned Doheny weren't just car owners. They were connoisseurs of bespoke automotive artistry, commissioning creations from the Earl Automobile Works that were as much about status as they were about getting from point A to point B. These were showstoppers, each a masterpiece of design and luxury that showcased the Dohenys' place atop the social and industrial ladder. Plus, art and culture weren't left behind in the Doheny dash for distinction. The family's residences, particularly the storied Greystone Mansion, doubled as sanctuaries for a lavish collection of art and rare books. Their homes were more than mere living spaces. They were temples of taste, brimming with fine art and exquisite furnishings that could rival any museum. And in true Doheny style, their art wasn't just for private enjoyment, it was shared with the world in exhibitions, adding a dash of their opulent lifestyle to the cultural tapestry of Los Angeles and beyond. In every sense, the Dohenys didn't just live in the era, they were architects of it, crafting a legacy that was as much about the splendor they surrounded themselves with as it was about the unforgettable mark they left on Californian society and industry. However, this old money saga isn't one that starts with little Edward holding a silver spoon, enjoying his opulent wealth from a young age. In fact, the Doheny journey is one out of the classic rags to riches style in American history, which is what we'll investigate in the next chapter. At the close of the 19th century, the ascent of Edward L. Doheny encapsulates the quintessence of the American dream, set against the backdrop of an Irish immigrant family's endeavor for a better life. Born into the Doheny family in 1856 in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, Edward's narrative was not isolated, but part of a larger wave of Irish emigration. Fleeing famine, political upheaval, and economic despair, Edward's parents represented a microcosm of the Irish diaspora, driven by the hope of forging a prosperous existence in the United States. Thus, Edward's early years were deeply influenced by the resilience and aspirations of his forebears. Despite the family's humble beginnings, Edward exhibited a tenacious spirit and ambition from an early age, and by 16 he ventured out, working as a mule driver for the US government's geological survey teams, marking his first foray into the realm of prospecting. However, this endeavor quickly revealed its limitations in terms of financial gain, propelling Edward towards the pursuit of precious metals in the West's rugged terrains. His quest for fortune led him across the American frontier, from the Black Hills of South Dakota to various other locales known for their mineral wealth. Yet, these early attempts at mining were met with limited success. The 1880 census records, identifying him as a painter in Prescott, Arizona, underscore a period of financial instability and a deviation from his initial aspirations. But these years, characterized by a diverse range of jobs and challenges, unknowingly laid the groundwork for Doheny's eventual triumph in the oil industry. Then, his venture into Los Angeles would mark the inception of a remarkable chapter in the development of the American oil industry. His arrival in the city in 1890, with initial aspirations within the legal field, quickly took a dramatic turn, and destiny had a unique path charted for him. In 1892, Doheny's attention was captured by a wagon laden with oil-soaked soil while ambling through Los Angeles. This peculiar sight propelled him to engage with the driver, who introduced him to brea, a term for tar, igniting Doheny's curiosity and setting the stage for his future endeavors. With the foundation of his oil empire commencing, Doheny, alongside his mining partner Charles A. Canfield, embarked on an ambitious journey by drilling the first successful oil well in Los Angeles. Nestled near what is today known as Dodger Stadium in Echo Park, this venture not only struck oil, but also ignited the Los Angeles oil boom, redefining the industry's landscape. The well's success underscored Doheny's transformation into a vanguard of the California oil realm, stemming from his acute observation and innovative approach. He capitalized on the visible oil seeps in the area, deducing the existence of bountiful underground oil reserves. Soon, the repercussions of Doheny's discovery reverberated beyond his immediate circle, engendering a profound transformation across Los Angeles and its adjacent regions. The oil well beckoned a wave of prospectors and investors, catalyzing the oil industry's expansion and bolstering Los Angeles's evolution into a pivotal urban center. But soon, Doheny and his team wouldn't simply limit their influence to Southern California, or even solely to the United States. Doheny was going global, as we'll see in the next chapter. Edward L. Doheny's ventures stretched well beyond the confines of California and significantly marked the early 20th century's industrial landscape. His foresight led him to Tampico, Mexico in 1901, where he established the nation's inaugural oil well. And this venture wasn't merely an act of pioneering spirit, but a strategic maneuver that positioned Doheny at the forefront of the oil industry amidst the Mexican Revolution. Under his guidance, the Mexican Petroleum Company emerged as Mexico's leading oil producer. Notably, in 1916, his Cerro Azul No. 4 well distinguished itself as the preeminent oil-producing well globally, boasting a production rate of 260,000 barrels a day. And Doheny's influence in the oil sector extended to South America, where his ventures in Venezuela and Colombia saw the Pan American Petroleum and Transport Company ascend to one of the globe's foremost oil entities in the 1920s. His knack for strategic investments, particularly in essential infrastructure like pipelines and storage facilities, played a pivotal role in the efficient distribution of crude oil from these territories. However, Edward Doheny's reign was not without its controversies. For example, his involvement in the Teapot Dome scandal stands as one of the early 20th century's most notable episodes of corporate and political misconduct. In 1922, a controversial decision was made by Albert B. Fall, the U.S. Secretary of the Interior, to lease significant oil reserves at Elk Hills, California, to Doheny's Pan American Petroleum and Transport Company, and the Teapot Dome field in Wyoming to the Sinclair Consolidated Oil Corporation. These reserves were crucial assets of the U.S. Navy, and the leases were arranged without the transparency of competitive bidding, a decision that would soon ignite a scandal of national proportions. The core of the controversy centered around a $100,000 payment made by Doheny to Secretary Fall in 1921, purportedly as a gift, but widely regarded as a bribe to secure the lease on the Elk Hills Naval Petroleum Reserve. This act of bribery, although Doheny was ultimately acquitted in 1930, significantly marred his reputation. Then, the scandal expanded as it was revealed that Fall had accepted similar bribes for the leasing of the Teapot Dome oil field, leading to his conviction. In the aftermath, Doheny divested a majority of his holdings in Pan American Petroleum and Transport to Standard Oil of Indiana in April 1925, while consolidating his California assets into the newly formed Pan American Western Petroleum Company. This strategic maneuver allowed Doheny to refocus on the core aspects of oil exploration and production, distancing himself from the scandal. But the legal entanglements and public scrutiny intensified when Doheny and Fall faced the prospect of a second trial for bribery in 1929. Subsequently, in a tragic turn of events, Doheny's son Ned and his assistant, Hugh Plunkett, both implicated in the scandal, died in a murder plus Ned taking his own life, under circumstances that remain speculative and contentious. Raymond Chandler, who briefly intersected with the oil industry during this turbulent period, later wove elements of these events into his literary work, reflecting on the lasting impact of the scandal. In the years following, Edward Doheny retreated from the public eye, overwhelmed by legal battles and personal loss. Indeed, the shareholder lawsuits that ensued in the wake of the Teapot Dome scandal, coupled with the death of his son, led to his withdrawal into a life marked by solitude and declining health. But Doheny's legacy, while significant in the development of the American oil industry, remains intricately tied to one of the most infamous scandals in US history, serving as a cautionary tale of the risks inherent in the unchecked pursuit of power and wealth. On the flip side, his descendants would pave a much more upbeat path for the west side of Los Angeles in the coming years. In the latter part of the 19th century, Edward L. Doheny took a significant step into family life with his marriage to Carrie Luella Wilkins in 1883. Specifically, their union took root during Doheny's aforementioned initial forays into prospecting and mining in the challenging landscapes of the New Mexico territory. The couple settled in Kingston, a modest and rugged silver mining town where Doheny sought to carve out a fortune in mining before shifting his focus to the burgeoning oil industry. The birth of their daughter, Eileen, in December 1885, marked the onset of Doheny's familial responsibilities. Nonetheless, these initial years were characterized by economic challenges as Doheny endeavored to provide for his family, at times engaging in various occupations, including painting. Following the unfortunate demise of his first wife, Doheny entered a second marriage in 1900 with Carrie Estelle Betzold, a telephone operator he encountered in Los Angeles. By this time, Doheny had already laid the foundations of his wealth in the oil sector. Estelle, born in Philadelphia in 1875, and having moved to Los Angeles at 15 with her German immigrant parents, underwent a remarkable transformation from a telephone operator to a prominent philanthropist and an avid book collector through her marriage to Doheny. This transition underscored the profound influence of Doheny's achievements on his family's fortunes. In stark contrast to the hardships endured with his first wife, his life with Estelle was characterized by affluence and societal influence. Estelle leveraged her position for philanthropy, significantly impacting the community, notably through her support for the Catholic Church and her role in founding the Doheny Eye Institute after suffering partial blindness, reflecting the Doheny family's extensive social influence. But of course, the narrative of the Doheny legacy extends to Edward L. Doheny's descendants, notably through Lucy Doheny Batson, who later became Lucy Doheny Batson Niven, and her lineage, which includes Larry Niven. Larry Niven, a luminary in science fiction literature and a recipient of the Hugo Award 5 times, exemplifies the broad spectrum of talents and contributions the Doheny family has made beyond industrial and philanthropic endeavors. Therefore, while Lucy's direct connection to her father's legacy may not have been as publicly prominent as that of her brother Ned, her descendants have made significant cultural contributions, particularly in literature and entertainment, underscoring the Doheny family's diverse legacy. And Ned Doheny and Lucy Smith's offspring perpetuated the family's legacy across diverse spheres, notably through their philanthropic and cultural engagements. The Estelle Doheny Eye Foundation, a homage to Edward L. Doheny's second spouse, embodies the family's dedication to advancing medical research, with its endowment surpassing the $100 million mark. And Patrick A. Doheny, a descendant of Ned, has played a pivotal role in enriching Los Angeles's cultural scene, notably through his support for the LA County Museum of Art. Furthermore, despite their profound impact, the Doheny family has favored discretion over public acclaim. Yet, their sustained support for esteemed institutions, including the Huntington Library, eloquently speaks to their unwavering commitment to fostering cultural and scientific advancement. However, for most Angelenos and Beverly Hills residents, the most iconic piece of the Doheny legacy lives on in a stone edifice that we all know and cherish, which we'll discuss next. In the heart of Beverly Hills, California, Greystone Mansion emerges as a remarkable showcase of early 20th century opulence and architectural brilliance. This Tudor revival marvel, completed in 1928, was the brainchild of noted architect Gordon B. Kaufman. It was conceived as a grand gift from Edward L. Doheny to his son Ned and his family, embodying the zenith of luxury and ambition of its era. Constructed with an investment exceeding $3 million, a figure unheard of at the time, the mansion set a new standard for residential grandeur in California. And since the city of Beverly Hills acquired it in 1965, turning it into a public park 6 years later, Greystone Mansion has woven itself into the fabric of the community's cultural and social life. It has graced the silver screen and television, serving as a picturesque setting for numerous productions and thereby cementing its place in Hollywood lore. Furthermore, the mansion's elegance and historical significance make it a prime venue for weddings, sophisticated gatherings, and cultural events such as the annual Music in the Mansion series, which celebrates classical music, enhancing the cultural offerings available to the community. Thus, Greystone Mansion today is more than a landmark. It is a vibrant testament to the community's dedication to preserving its rich cultural heritage. And beyond their immediate estate, the Doheny family has significantly shaped the broader Beverly Hills and Los Angeles community. Edward L. Doheny's charitable activities, especially through the Carrie Estelle Doheny Foundation established by his widow, have been instrumental in enhancing the welfare, health, and education within Los Angeles. This foundation, together with the family's other philanthropic efforts, has contributed profoundly to the cultural and social fabric of the city. Furthermore, the Doheny name has become a permanent fixture in the landscape and history of Beverly Hills and its surroundings. Doheny Drive, serving as a daily testament to the family's lasting presence and contributions to urban development, runs through the heart of the city. Additionally, the Doheny family's ventures into real estate, notably the creation of the prestigious Trousdale Estates on what was once part of the Doheny Ranch, have profoundly influenced the architectural and community development of the area. And therefore, the Doheny family's story has all of the trappings of a classic American old money tale: rags to riches, triumph, tragedy, scandal, and philanthropic endeavors. Imagine you and your family have decided to take a sunny vacation to one of the many legendary beaches of Southern California. As you discuss where you'd like to lay your hats for a few relaxing days, your options gleam with exclusivity. The serene shores of Laguna Beach, the elite enclave of Newport Beach, or the secluded sands of Palos Verdes estates. Yet, if we at Old Money Luxury may be so bold, allow us to guide you toward a locale framed by pristine coastlines and imbued with a legendary elegance. The place in question is none other than Huntington Beach, California, affectionately known as Surf City, USA. As your family reclines on the soft, sun-kissed sand, you'd be vacationing in an oasis named after one of California's most legendary families, a clan that at one time was worth the modern equivalent of more than $30 billion, and a lineage that has one of the most scandalous love triangles in US history. In today's episode, we'll tell you the full saga of this Gilded Age dynasty as we describe the Huntingtons, the old money family that built Los Angeles beaches. The wealth of the Huntington family was, in its prime years, a figure too high for the average individual to comprehend. And, though no exact figures can be confirmed, it is estimated that had this family's great empire stood in the 21st century, it would have been worth anywhere from $30 to $50 billion. Furthermore, this wealth was built through the creation of not one, but two railroad companies that not only revolutionized state-to-state travel in the United States, but also deeply lined the Huntington family's pockets for centuries to come. Better year, the wealth of the Huntingtons cannot be quantified into a mere dollar amount, as the family's legacy is cemented further through the plethora of locations that bear the family name. Huntington Beach, California; Huntington House, New York City; Huntington State Park, Connecticut; Huntington High School, Virginia. Everywhere you look, from Arizona to Wyoming, the name Huntington is engraved on the top of buildings, on park benches and in university books. Indeed, if we were to list every place in America that bears the Huntington name, we would be here all day. And this illustrious old money family also enjoyed political influence that likewise cannot be quantified. The founder of the empire, Collis P. Huntington, for instance, assuaged the decisions made in Congress throughout the 19th century, bending the minds of politicians to his will as a magician fools his spectators. And with such unwavering financial abundance and de facto authority came a life of luxury that most can only imagine. Stately houses in England, an art collection worth over $3 million, mansions situated in Ohio, New York, and a ranch fit for 60 guests at a time. All was but a scratch at the surface of the indulgence with which the Huntingtons enjoyed their lives at the peak of their wealth. But how on earth does a family like the Huntingtons gather so much wealth in the first place? To answer this question, we must travel back to where the Huntington line truly began, 17th century England. You see, the name Huntington, though deeply embedded into American culture in the 21st century, actually has its roots in northern England. The name Huntington is a habitational one and was given to any person living in the Huntington or Huntana area. The founding father of the Huntington family that we know today, Simon Huntington, was thus English in origin. However, in 1633, Simon Huntington was given an opportunity to board a ship journeying to the new and fruitful land of America. Simon took this opportunity with both hands, seeing it as a way to escape the poverty of England and enjoy the surplus that America had to offer. Though Simon never did make it to the land of the free, tragically passing away on the journey and leaving his pregnant wife to keep the Huntington flame burning. Thankfully, she was able to make the journey and eventually arrived in modern-day Boston. Subsequent generations of the Huntingtons eventually relocated to Harwinton, Connecticut, and on the 22nd of October 1821, one Collis Potter Huntington was born. And though his forefathers had moved to the United States to elevate their social status, Collis was born into a relatively poor, working-class life. The son of a farmer, Collis's early life was far from glamorous, and his days consisted of farm chores, long hours, and little reward. However, even in his youth, Collis did not see economic limitations. Instead, everything around him was a tool, a conduit that he could use to earn money and secure financial freedom. In his youth, this entrepreneurial spirit led Collis to sell his skills in manual labor to local neighbors, where he would do any job to fill his pockets with cash. And when he was 16, Collis began working as a door-to-door salesman, traveling as far as Virginia to sell his wares. During his time as a salesman, Collis saw an even greater opportunity for financial returns. He theorized that he could make greater financial returns by letting the customers come to him, rather than wasting all of his time knocking on the doors of uninterested civilians. And so, with the help of his brother, Collis set up his first business, a merchandise store, in 1842. It was modest, but it was also fruitful, and the duo would continue to run the business for the next 6 years. By the late 1940s, therefore, Collis Huntington enjoyed a life of relative economic prosperity. However, for a man as hungry as Collis, the fruits of modesty and stability were not sweet enough. He needed something more. And so he turned his attention to Western America, California to be precise. You see, in 1848, the renowned gold rush was in full motion. Hundreds of thousands of hungry individuals were traveling to California soil in the search of economic glory and riches beyond measure. The allure of finding newfound economic returns proved too much for Collis, and he had to get a slice of the pie. And so, as the sun set on the 1840s, Collis said goodbye to his family, his shop, and everything he knew, in pursuit of the riches only California could provide. Now, while most people were traveling to California to mine gold and dig their riches from the earth, Collis Huntington had a different idea. With his prior entrepreneurial experience, he was aware that demand for mining supplies in California was going to be at an all-time high. Yet, the supply available was limited. Thus, Teaming up with another businessman, Mark Hopkins, who would later become a key component in the Huntington machine, Collis sought to sell mining supplies to those reaching California. And to say that this decision was successful would be an understatement. Collis received monumental financial returns through this project, giving him the financial resources for his next big plan. You see, during his journey to California, Collis had noticed that there was no one direct railroad running from eastern to western America. And as a result, miners traveling from the east had to risk their lives just to reach California. Collis saw this as an opportunity and proposed to build a rail line through America, running from east to west. To pursue this idea, Collis joined forces with a further two entrepreneurs, Leland Stanford and Charles Crocker. These titans of commerce would later be dubbed the Big Four. And so, in 1861, armed with a war chest of financial power and a clear vision, the four created the Central Pacific Railroad Company. Completing this monumental task took around 8 years, during which time Huntington spent his days in Washington, serving as a lobbyist to secure further financing deals and bend political movement to the benefit of the railroad's construction. During the construction of the Central Pacific Railroad, the Big Four also created a new company, the Southern Pacific, in 1865. The goal of this company was to better connect California to New Orleans, to facilitate the state's growth and economy. You see, in the 19th century, California was not the bustling hub that it is now. In fact, it was extremely isolated due to a lack of easily accessible transport routes, and as a result, the state's economy suffered. Its political power was also weakened as a result of its geographical isolation. But with a railroad that made transport to and from California easy, everything would change. Collis likewise served as a lobbyist for this company, ensuring that it always had more funding for expansion and that Congress didn't get in the way of its plans. And under the leadership of the Big Four, Southern Pacific was able to build a 9,600-mile railroad track that became vital to California's development. No longer was California an isolated city. Now it was a connected hub, a land not withdrawn but drawn to other states. And with such success came great personal reward for the Big Four, who received incalculable returns on their investments in both railroad companies. With this newfound wealth, Collis decided to diversify and solidify his financial empire with strategic investments. He invested in land companies in West Virginia. He acquired a steamship line in South America, a construction company, new railroad companies in Virginia, an art collection worth millions of dollars. If something would make him richer, Collis would invest. Ultimately, therefore, in his prime years, few could come close to the power, both economic and political, that Collis Huntington enjoyed. He had cemented his legacy as not only one of the most powerful men the country has ever seen, but also one of the most influential. Yet, the love life of Collis and other Huntington family members is as wild as the rise to wealth this family enjoyed. In the next chapter, we'll dive into one of the most entertaining and infamous aspects of the Huntingtons, their octopus-like love lives. The personal lives of the Huntington family would be great fare for a modern reality TV show or 1990s soap opera, embodying the quintessence of Gilded Age drama and intrigue. You see, Collis P. Huntington first married a woman named Elizabeth Stoddard in 1844. The two enjoyed a seemingly happy marriage, even adopting Elizabeth's niece Clara as their own. However, Collis's romantic life took a particularly dramatic turn when he met Arabella Duval Yarrington, a young woman from the South who moved to New York City following the death of her first husband, Mr. Worsham, being left to raise their son, Archer, alone. Her beauty and wit soon quickly caught the attention of Collis Huntington, who was then married to his first wife. Soon thereafter, Collis and Arabella reportedly began a scandalous affair, and the death of Collis's first wife in 1884 removed the immediate social barriers to their union, and Collis married Arabella later that same year. Now, this marriage not only legitimized their relationship, but also significantly altered Arabella's social standing, propelling her into the upper echelons of American society. Arabella's influence and role as a socialite and philanthropist grew, her keen sense of style and sharp business acumen becoming well recognized. But the plot thickened ever more with the death of Collis in 1900, leaving Arabella a very wealthy widow, with Arabella later marrying none other than Collis's nephew, Henry E. Huntington, in 1913. This union further entangled the family dynamics, as it blended the lines of aunt and uncle with those of husband and wife. This was further evidenced when Collis so easily accepted Arabella's son, Archer, whom she'd given birth to during a previous marriage, leading many to believe that Archer was actually Collis's son, hence his eagerness to make him the heir to the Huntington legacy. Thus, technically, within a few decades, Arabella Huntington was the aunt of her husband, the daughter-in-law of her husband, and the mother-in-law of her nephew. However, this is not to say Arabella did not spend the family dollars frivolously all the time. For instance, after the death of Collis in 1900, Arabella donated $100,000 to the General Memorial Hospital, helping to establish the Huntington Fund for Cancer Research, the first of its kind. She also sought to preserve the beauty of the medieval and Renaissance world by collecting dozens of works of art, items of jewelry, and other priceless antiques. And upon her death in 1924, the majority of her illustrious collection was donated to a number of public institutions, such as Yale University. Now come the tragic death of Collis, the head of the family. In 1900, the burden lay on his children, Clara and Archer, to cement the family name and build on the foundations of his empire. And to do this, the two children used one of the most powerful tools at their disposal, their last name. Both Clara and Archer used this to their advantage, to attract marital partners from equally influential families, to cement the Huntington name even further. Clara, for instance, married into the House of Hatzfeld, a family of infinitely influential German aristocrats, in 1889, partnering with Francie Hatzfeld. Archer, on the other hand, ever the philanthropic, married first the writer Helen Manchester Gates in 1895. However, after surviving a brief capture by German forces in the First World War, the two decided to divorce in 1918. 5 years later, Archer married Anna Hyatt, a sculptor and philanthropist who shared Archer's passion for the preservation of beautiful things. However, neither Clara nor Archer felt ready to take the mantle of their father's commercial empire upon his death. Thus, the duty to expand Collis's business fell to his nephew, the aforementioned Henry Edwards Huntington. Born in 1850 in the metropolis of New York, Henry Huntington's early life was dominated by infatuation over the success of his uncle Collis. The story of his uncle inspired him, and as soon as he was able, he began to work closely alongside his idol, eager to learn and grow his family's empire. As he gained experience, Henry was promoted to an executive of Southern Pacific, overseeing its day-to-day growth and management. Thus, come the death of Collis Huntington in 1900, Henry was a seasoned businessman and ready to take the reins of the Huntington Empire. However, Henry's plans were stifled when his takeover of his uncle's railroad company was blocked by a bondholder representative. The doors had been shut on Henry's rise, and he no longer had a foothold in the companies his uncle built. Thus, embodying the blazing entrepreneurial spirit that ran in his veins, Henry decided to build his own railroad company, acquiring the Los Angeles Railway in 1898. Leveraging the infrastructure of this company, Henry sought to render Southern Pacific's railroads null and void in Los Angeles by developing more modern electric railways in the city. Over the next few years, Henry began to implement electric railways throughout Los Angeles, which proved to be faster, more efficient, and more consumer-friendly than Southern Pacific's attempts. He enjoyed monumental financial returns, and by 1910, his new and improved electric railroad system covered over 1,300 miles of Southern California, a spanning network that gave the Huntington name yet more influence over the expanse of the Golden State. Such financial freedom also gave Henry the opportunity to give back to his community, which became a key part of his being in the 20th century. Henry used his wealth to donate precious land to be used as parks, many of which bear the Huntington name today. He also loved to donate to schools and universities to ensure that the next generation of individuals had better opportunities for growth and development. Another notable philanthropic venture of Henry's was his fascination with rare books, which he collected and made available to the public with the founding of the Huntington Library in 1919. And upon his unfortunate death in 1927, Henry gifted a large portion of his personal book and art collection to various universities. Ultimately, Henry Huntington's legacy is one of great proportions. Not only did he build upon his uncle's empire, but he also made it his life's mission to give back to the community. He left Los Angeles in a better place than he found it in so many ways, and further added to the established legacy of his family name. Upon Henry's death in 1927, the future of the Huntington family rested on three individuals. The first of which was one Helen Huntington Hull. Born April 1893, the daughter of not one but two wealthy and influential families, Helen Huntington Hull grew up in a world far removed from the early realities that her ancestor Collis endured. And her life was nothing short of a reflection of her innate high status. Helen had a love for opera and ballet, for instance, and in using her status as an American socialite, she was able to find a seat on the board of directors of the New York City Ballet, as well as the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Her marriage was also a reflection of her love for the higher echelons of society, as in 1914 she married William Astor, heir of the prestigious Astor legacy. The Astor legacy, like the Huntingtons, is one of rags to riches. Born in poverty, the family's founding father, John Jacob Astor, grew a business in the beaver fur trade to previously unseen heights, becoming America's first multimillionaire. Subsequently, the Astors built a real estate empire like the world had never seen, and through marriage to the Delano family, extended their influence into the sphere of American politics. By marrying an Astor, Helen Huntington Hull therefore extended her influence and power in society's inner circle dramatically, bringing the Huntington name with her. And though the two divorced in 1941, her life is a perfect reflection of the status that the Huntington name held come the mid-20th century. Collis's son, Archer, also enjoyed the fruits of his father's labor, though he preferred to spend his time surrounded by art, culture, and academia. Perhaps Archer's most notable contributions to the Huntington legacy come by way of his work in the field of Hispanic studies. In 1904, for instance, Archer founded the Hispanic Society of New York, a museum dedicated to preserving the knowledge of Spanish history. Further, in the same year, Archer became a Fellow of the renowned American Geographical Society. 3 years later, he ascended to President of the Society and, using his financial resources, helped to dramatically expand the organization and increase its influence, not only in the United States, but also on an international scale. And finally, let us turn our attention to Anna Hyatt Huntington, the aforementioned wife of archer and decorated sculptor. Anna, through her immense skill in sculpting, helped to propel the position of women in the field of art and show the world that the work of a woman can be as successful as a man, if not more so. Her career was particularly defined by her sculptures of animals, which were crafted with previously unseen skill and precision. The detail in her jaguar eating sculpture is particularly mesmerizing. Throughout the course of their marriage, the two also founded Brook Green Gardens, a now well-known wildlife preserve and landmark in South Carolina. Anna donated multiple sculptures to the preserve, and many can still be viewed decades later. Ultimately, therefore, subsequent generations of the Huntingtons have helped to preserve their great family name rather than detract from it, as so many old money inheritors do. When you think of Orange County, or the OC as the kids might say, you think of sun-soaked beaches, upscale shopping malls, and reality TV drama. But dive a bit deeper, and you'll uncover the foundational saga of the Irvine family, whose old money financial brilliance and quiet logistical influence sculpted this iconic region from the ground up. Certainly, their foresight in land development not only crafted the physical landscape of cities like Irvine, bearing their name, but also laid the groundwork for the thriving economic powerhouse Orange County is today. In this episode of Old Money Luxury, we'll take you through rolling acres of farmland as they change into master-planned communities, agricultural fields morphing into bustling suburbs, all under the strategic vision of one influential family, as we describe, the Irvines, old money family who built Orange County. Once upon a time in Orange County, California, or the OC, the Irvine family's landholdings were not just extensive, they were legendary. Indeed, the Irvine Ranch, as it was called, sprawled over an astonishing 110,000 acres on a mammoth tract of land that stretched a jaw-dropping 23 miles, from the shimmering Pacific Ocean to the Santa Ana River. Impressively, nearly a third of what is now Orange County was under the Irvines' domain. But the Irvines were more than just land barons. They were master strategists and community pillars, eventually granting SoCal their surname for the city of Irvine, California. And in a move that would etch their name in educational history, the Irvines Ranch was chosen in 1959 as the proud site for the new University of California Irvine campus. This wasn't just a nod to their influence, but a cementing of their legacy through the hallowed halls of academia. And the family's gift of Irvine Regional Park to the OC was similarly thoughtful. Now, trying to pin down the Irvine family's net worth during their heyday of landholding supremacy is a bit like trying to catch a cloud, elusive yet undeniably substantial. The sheer scale and fertility of the Irvine Ranch alone suggest a fortune of considerable magnitude, and if we fast forward to modern times, the family's Irvine company still looms large as a titan of real estate, albeit with leadership outside of the direct descendants. Enter Donald Bren, real estate mogul and Irvine Company's linchpin in the late 20th century. With a personal net worth pegged at a cool $18 billion, Bren's financial clout is a monetary symbol of the enduring value and high stakes of the lands once ruled by the Irvine family. Thus, through strategic investment, philanthropy, and an unerring knack for land management, the Irvine family not only dominated the land, but also sowed the seeds of education and prosperity that would bear fruit across one of America's most legendary, well-to-do counties. And yet, the rags-to-riches tale of the Irvine family ancestors doesn't begin on a ranch or in a wagon on the Oregon Trail. In order to find out how this legendary family started off their empire, we'll travel back across the Atlantic to what is now Northern Ireland. The Irvine family's saga is steeped in the storied legacy of a people known as the Scots-Irish in the United States. A resilient early American group who journeyed from the rugged landscapes of Scotland to the verdant fields of Ireland's Ulster province. There, amidst new communities, they wove their steadfast traditions and fierce spirit into the fabric of their new homeland. Yet, the call of distant horizons was irresistible, and it wasn't long before the Irvines, like many from their community, set their sights on the expansive possibilities of America. Born into the harsh realities of 1827 County Down Ireland, James Irvine emerged at a time when the shadow of Ireland's great famine loomed large, a devastating blight that would soon drive millions from their homes in a desperate bid for survival. In 1845, with the famine gnawing at their heels, James and his brother William embarked on a perilous journey across the Atlantic, their hearts heavy with loss, but alight with hope. Landing in the bustling, chaotic ports of mid-19th century New York City, James initially took employment at a paper mill, a stepping stone that helped him amass the initial capital necessary for future endeavors. Then, his next move was bold and transformative. In 1848, he ventured west to partake in the California Gold Rush, an event that would lay the groundwork for his family's long-standing influence in California. Now, James Irvine's approach to the gold rush was distinctive. Instead of mining, he chose to establish himself as a merchant, supplying the miners, a decision that not only provided immediate profits but also stability. But his knack for business didn't stop there. Irvine shrewdly invested his earnings into San Francisco real estate, significantly expanding his financial portfolio. By the 1860s, Irvine's success had catapulted him into the ranks of San Francisco's elite businessmen. He then entered into a lucrative partnership focused on sheep raising in Monterey County with Dr. Benjamin Flint and others, and this venture capitalized on the heightened demand for wool during the Civil War, proving immensely profitable. Irvine also joined forces with Flint, Bixby and Company, becoming a silent partner. You see, parallel to Irvine's life, the Bixby family, James Irvine the First's cousins, had emerged as significant figures in the regional landscape of Southern California. And their influence was largely through strategic alliances and business acumen that saw them control vast tracts of land, much like Irvine. The Bixby family's legacy in California is deeply interwoven with the state's development, with their name enduring in various locales such as Bixby Hill, Bixby Knolls and Bixby Village in Long Beach, as well as Bixby Park. These places not only serve as residential and recreational spaces, but also stand as enduring markers of the Bixby family's historical and cultural contributions to the region. Thus, the collaboration between James Irvine and Flint, Bixby and Company is a significant chapter in the old money history of Californian families, and subsequently, in collaboration with his cousin, James Irvine founded a ranch sprawling over 185 square miles. And subsequent acquisitions, including Rancho Lomas de Santiago in 1866, expanded their holdings. That particular ranch, primarily rugged and hilly, previously served as a sheep ranch under William Wolfskill's ownership. Despite these rapid expansions, Irvine and his partners diverged from the common real estate practices of their time, such as parceling out land for quick sales. Instead, they focused on determining the most profitable agricultural applications for their extensive land holdings, and by 1876, Irvine had bought out his partners, taking sole control of the 110,000-acre ranch, which he then continued to develop and diversify. This consolidation was crucial, as it allowed for greater management and utilization of the land, transitioning from cattle to more profitable agricultural ventures such as citrus and lima beans, which were more suited to the local climate and soil conditions. Therefore, through these ventures, James Irvine I not only secured his family's financial stability, but also laid the groundwork for the transformation of a significant part of California's landscape. However, it was through his children that the legacy of James Irvine I, from the foggy shores of Northern Ireland to the sunny skies of California, would be forever embossed into Californian lore. James Harvey Irvine, Sr., James Irvine's son, born in San Francisco in October 1867, would soon emerge as a formidable force in the evolution of Irvine Ranch, propelling it into a prominent agricultural and commercial stronghold. Orphaned of his mother at 7 and his father by 18, Irvine II was thrust into the responsibilities of land management under the watchful guidance of his uncle George Irvine, following his father's demise in 1886. Then, this period of trusteeship culminated in his full inheritance of the ranch at the age of 25, and when he was faced with an initial attempt by trustees to auction the estate, which was subsequently ruled illegal, James II assumed control with a determined vision. By 1894, his strategic foresight led to the incorporation of these holdings into what would be known as the Irvine Company, a move that would solidify the family foundation for a prosperous venture that would span several decades. Irvine II's tenure at the helm was characterized by a hands-on approach, with James often recounting the rigorous demands of managing such an expansive estate. He described the extensive journeys across the ranch, which involved daily rides of up to 40 miles to oversee the vast expanses of land and livestock under his care. James Irvine II also played an instrumental role in the establishment of the city of Irvine, by granting the city its name. Thus, when James passed away in 1947 at age 80, his son, Myford Irvine, assumed the mantle of presidency over the Irvine Company, marking a pivotal shift for the sprawling ranch, wherein it would transition into a full-fledged city. You see, the late 1950s heralded the inception of Irvine's architectural and urban planning, spearheaded by Los Angeles architect William Pereira and Irvine Company's own Raymond Watson. They conceived the city of Irvine as a collection of distinct townships known as villages, each encircled by 6-lane thoroughfares. Uniformity defines these villages with their residential styles, commercial centers, places of worship, and educational facilities. And these commercial hubs are meticulously positioned to create a well-defined edge around residential zones. Now, Pereira initially proposed a city plan with a radial structure, focusing on artificial lakes and a central university as its core. However, a shift in strategy led to the abandonment of using central farmland for the university, prompting its relocation to the southern coastal hills. The subsequent adapted city layout, evocative of a necklace, features villages strung along two parallel main streets, converging at the University of California, Irvine, and this university serves as the city's centerpiece, or pendant. To this day, the influence of this layout is prominently visible in the UCI campus and the dual artificial lakes in Woodbridge, one of the key villages. Furthermore, Irvine's design was heavily influenced by the era's car-centric philosophy, resulting in a cityscape where vehicle travel prevails with scant attention to alternate modes of transportation. Residential zones are bookended by major commercial districts, with the Irvine business complex to the west and the Irvine spectrum to the east. These zones are not only economic linchpins, but also vital social locales that have nurtured Irvine's evolution from a mere ranch to a bustling urban hub. Additionally, in Irvine, the attention to landscape integration is unmistakable. Streets are lined with generous landscaping buffers, and the city uses reclaimed water for irrigation, showcasing its focus on sustainability, with rights-of-way for power lines doubling as bike paths, parks and green belts, linking together various ecological preserves. Thus, as Irvine continues to grow, the foundational plans laid down by the Irvine family Pereira and Watson remain influential, guiding the city's expansion and the meticulous orchestration of its urban landscape. And yet, the family legacy would continue as James II's daughter, Joan Irvine Smith, would influence the city of Irvine, particularly with regards to the university in town, in the next generation. Joan Irvine Smith, born Athalie Anita Irvine on the 1st of July 1933, stood as a towering figure in philanthropy, the arts and equestrian training, also inheriting a significant part of the Irvine family wealth. The only daughter of James Harvey Irvine II and Athalie Richardson, she was thrust into the world of corporate and civic responsibilities from a tender age, and her life was marked by an educational journey that included time at Westridge School and brief stints at Marymount College and UC Berkeley, setting the stage for her later endeavors. And her father's death, when she was merely 2, and her grandfather's passing in 1947, placed her at the helm of a minor yet pivotal stake in the Irvine Company, marking the beginning of her enduring and often contentious relationship with both the company and the Irvine Foundation. Despite being a major shareholder, she initiated legal battles seeking a larger portion of shares for herself and her cousins, illustrating her formidable presence in boardrooms. Specifically, in July 1962, she brought a lawsuit against the Irvine Company, claiming $1.2 million for losses tied to a real estate deal that she argued was mismanaged, a transaction that involved swapping a substantial parcel in Orange County for agricultural land in Imperial County. This legal action, announced with considerable public attention at the Mark Hopkins Hotel in San Francisco, underscored her readiness to challenge corporate decisions, setting a precedent for her leadership style. Beyond the realms of corporate disputes, Irvine Smith's most enduring legacy perhaps lies in her crucial role in the establishment of the University of California, Irvine. But her contributions were not limited to the mere donation of land. She was instrumental in the university's location planning and engaged deeply with the academic community. Her interactions with UC President Dr. Clark Kerr and her discussions at industrial conferences highlighted her vision of directed imagination, a concept that bridged visionary academic planning with practical implementation. Therefore, the University of California, Irvine, owes its existence significantly to her efforts, as noted by UCI Chancellor Howard Gilman, who acknowledged that without her, the institution might never have come to fruition. Interestingly, her influence extended into medical research through the establishment of the Reeve Irvine Research Center at UCI, dedicated to spinal cord injury research, inspired by actor Christopher Reeve's tragic accident. Having passed away only recently, it would seem that Joan Irvine Smith would lay claim to the last direct descendant to be directly in power at the Irvine Company, with the next chapter discussing the new leader of the family assets, an outsider named Donald Bren. Donald Bren's ascent to the pinnacle of the American real estate industry wasn't necessarily written in the stars. Born in Los Angeles in 1932, Bren's familial backdrop was as eclectic as it was influential. His father, Milton Bren, transitioned from a naval career to Hollywood film production, while his mother, Marion Newbert, stood out as a civic leader. Thus, the breakup of their marriage in 1948 and subsequent new family dynamics played a pivotal role in shaping Bren's character and ambitions. Educationally, Bren's tenure at the University of Washington culminated in a bachelor's degree in business administration and economics. And beyond academics, he was a keen athlete and even aspired to join the 1956 Olympic ski team. A dream derailed by injury. This setback, however, redirected his energies towards a successful stint in the United States Marine Corps, where he further developed the leadership qualities essential for his future business exploits. In 1958, Bren embarked on his real estate career by establishing the Bren Company, which quickly made its mark building homes in Orange County, California. His reputation for quality and innovation grew, and in 1963 he co-founded the Mission Viejo Company, pioneering one of the nation's first master-planned communities, likely inspired by the very Irvine Company he would once helm. Subsequently, Bren's journey with the Irvine Company began in 1977 when he, along with a group of investors, acquired the company for $337 million, outmaneuvering other high-profile bidders. By 1983, he had further consolidated his influence through a strategic leverage buyout, securing a 70% ownership stake. This bold maneuver paved the way for Bren to eventually become the sole proprietor of the company, a position he used to spearhead the expansion and diversification of its portfolio. Under Bren's leadership, the Irvine Company has further transformed into a model for master-planned communities, with the Irvine Spectrum Center and Newport Coast among its crowning achievements. Today, as of 2024, Bren is living large, an estimated net worth of $18 billion, making him the wealthiest real estate developer in the United States and a prominent philanthropist. Indeed, his philanthropic efforts, totaling over $1.3 billion, have significantly impacted education and environmental conservation, with his contributions endowing more than 60 chairs at the University of California, the most by any individual in the system's history. Moreover, Bren's dedication to land preservation has resulted in over 57,000 acres of the original Irvine Ranch being protected as permanent open space, parks and trails. Thus, although he's not a direct member of the Irvine family legacy, his professional bona fides and philanthropic efforts are in line with the moves of one of California's most iconic family dynasties. These days, when you hear the name Malibu, California, your mind instantly jumps to flawless images of pristine beaches, sleek supercars racing down the PCH, and opulent seaside estates that scream, if you have to ask the price, you can't afford it. But rewind less than a century, and you'll find a different scene altogether. A rugged coastline dotted with little more than dusty rocks. Indeed, it took the vision and determination of one particular old money New England family to transform this barren stretch of California coast into the glamorous haven we now connect to Hollywood glamour and oceanfront extravagance. In today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we share their captivating story, tracing their journey from the windswept shores of Massachusetts to the sun-kissed coast of Southern California, as we describe, the Ringes, the old money family who built Malibu. Frederick H. Ringe and Rhoda May Knight Ringe, once heralded as the King and Queen of Malibu, weren't just titans of charm. They were veritable alchemists of the California coastline. Before their reign, Malibu was merely a collection of dusty rocks that hardly warranted a second glance. Yet, under their Midas touch, these barren bluffs transformed into a lush, exclusive enclave, echoing the luxe vibes of the Mediterranean Rivieras that had captured Frederick's fancy during his European jaunts. You see, Frederick was no stranger to city-making magic. Before he became Malibu's monarch, he had already stamped his mark on the American landscape by transforming Cambridge, Massachusetts, into a beacon of culture and academia. And this isn't just any town, as many already know. It's the brainy epicenter where the likes of Harvard kiss the sky, thanks in part to Frederick's visionary investments and civic initiatives. With his influence, Cambridge morphed from a quaint New England town into a thriving hub that mingled intellectual prowess with architectural charm. Therefore, after etching his legacy into this cornerstone of American education and innovation, Frederick packed up his considerable fortune and set his sights on the golden coasts of California. And his dream was to mold Malibu into the American Riviera. Investing heavily, he conjured up an atmosphere of exclusivity and opulence, shaping Malibu into a sought-after paradise for the affluent. But let's not forget the indomitable spirit of Rhoda May Knight Ringe, the queen by Frederick's side, who added her own flair to the Malibu saga. She played a pivotal role in establishing the Malibu movie colony, a haven for Hollywood stars seeking respite from the hustle and bustle of Tinseltown. Indeed, May's vision transformed Malibu into more than just a glamorous retreat. It became a playground for the rich and famous, where silver screen icons mingled with the coastal elite, leaving behind a legacy of glitz and glamour that still echoes through Malibu's sandy shores. Today, the Ringe touch still palpably thrums through Malibu's veins, etched into its landscape and lore. Take the Adamson House, for example. Often hailed as the Taj Mahal of tile, this architectural gem was originally crafted for Rhoda's daughter. It stands as a dazzling tribute to the family's penchant for ornate, Spanish-inspired design, its walls a canvas of intricate tilework that whispers tales of a bygone era of splendor. Just a stone's throw from this historical masterpiece lies the Malibu Lagoon State Beach. This pristine stretch of sand and surf embodies the tranquil beauty that first lured the Ringes to these shores. It's a perfect snapshot of the idyllic haven they envisioned and brought to fruition, where the waves lap gently at memories of the past. Not far from the lagoon, nestled within the Malibu Creek State Park, stands the Ringe Dam. This robust barrier was another brainchild of Frederick, constructed to master the wild waters and support the agricultural ventures that bloomed under his ambitious gaze. The dam isn't just a feat of engineering. It's a landmark of the legacy Frederick left behind, a symbol of his dedication to nurturing and sculpting the natural beauty of Malibu. The Ringes' vast estates have also given rise to landmarks of learning and culture like Pepperdine University. Situated on what was once part of their expansive land holdings, the university, though not directly named after them, owes its scenic campus to the land preserved and eventually sold by the Ringe family. And yet, how did a couple of Massachusetts Yankees have the foresight and flexibility to leave the stuffy halls of old money New England and build one of the most well-known sun-soaked party palisades in California? In order to learn the answer, let's flip over to the next chapter and begin our journey. The story of the Ringe family's creation of Malibu, California, begins with a daring transcontinental adventure and ends on the glittering shores of Malibu, a sanctuary for Hollywood's elite. Yet, ironically, this glamorous destination on Southern California's Golden Coast has its roots in the ivy-covered bookish world of Greater Boston, Massachusetts, where the future family patriarch, Frederick H. Ringe, got his start with helping to first create none other than the academic haven of Cambridge, home of Harvard University. Born on the 21st of December 1857, the future founder of Malibu began his life in privilege in the grandiose Ringe Mansion, situated at the lively intersection of Dana and Harvard Streets in 19th century Greater Boston. However, despite such a prestigious beginning, Rindge's early life was marred by significant sorrow. You see, tragedy first struck with the early deaths of his siblings, Henry and Mary, who were taken by scarlet fever, casting a long shadow over his formative years. Furthermore, as a child, Rindge himself frequently battled severe rheumatic fever, which confined him to bed and often deprived him of the typical pleasures of youth. Yet, in 1875, Rindge matriculated at Harvard College, and his determination did not wane. He engaged actively in the art club, glee club, and hasty pudding club. However, his university journey was abruptly halted by recurring health issues, leading to his departure from Harvard following a grand tour of Europe, a cultural rite of passage at the time for the affluent American and European youth of the West, designed to enrich their education and polish their social graces through exposure to the arts, architecture, and aristocracy of the old world. Yet his up-and-down life of wealth and weak health took a significant turn in 1883 when Rindge, then only 28, inherited a vast estate from his father Samuel. This inheritance was not just a transfer of vast sums of capital, but a baton of opportunity, thanks to Samuel's astute investments in textile mills and real estate. Thus, with nearly $2 million at his command, worth about $140 million in today's dollars, Rindge was equipped not just to manage an estate, but to redefine his future. And 4 years later, Rindge's commitment to his hometown manifested profoundly. Cambridge Mayor and Harvard acquaintance William Russell approached him with a humble request for funding to establish a new public library. Rindge responded not just with funding, but with a plot of land to boot, and by the end of 1887, his contributions had expanded to include a new City Hall, now known as Cambridge City Hall, and the Rindge Technical School. This institution would eventually merge with Cambridge High and Latin School to form the Cambridge Rindge and Latin School in 1977, an establishment still pivotal to the educational fabric of Cambridge and beyond, ironically launching the careers of numerous Hollywood actors, including Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Indeed, those two particular film icons wrote and filmed the iconic movie Good Will Hunting during their years in and around the schools that Frederick H. Rindge helped found, adding even more modern Hollywood magic to the history of the Rindge family. Rindge's influence, however, stretched beyond the academic and into the more personal aspects of the community's life, including streets that still bear his name, such as Rindge Avenue and Ringefield Street. Yet, it would be his marriage to Rhoda May Knight that would lead Frederick H. Rindge from a life filled with academic philanthropy to the creation of one of Hollywood's most iconic locales on the sunny shores of California. The marriage of Frederick Rindge and Rhoda May Knight in the late 19th century marked not just the merging of two hearts, but also the forging of a future that would shape the very contours of California, including the creation of the legendary Malibu. Born in 1864, Rhoda grew up on a bustling sheep farm outside Trenton, Michigan. With her 12 siblings and her early years as a mathematics teacher and her devout Methodist upbringing prepared her little for the adventurous life that lay ahead. But the turn in Rhoda's life began rather enchantingly when Frederick, while convalescing at a health colony run by Rhoda's aunt in Northern California, spotted her photograph. Captivated, he sought the aunt's blessing to court Rhoda. Soon, letters flew between Frederick and Rhoda, quickly blossoming into romance, and within a dizzyingly short span, the couple were engaged and then married, all in under a fortnight. In 1887, the newlyweds boarded a first-class Pullman Palace rail car bound for California, settling initially at a ranch owned by Rhoda's aunt before moving to Santa Monica, marking the start of their storied saga in the Golden State. Then, the couple's vision of idyllic coastal living blossomed in the 1890s with the construction of a Victorian ranch home nestled in Malibu Canyon. Tragically, their Malibu retreat was consumed by a brush fire in 1903, yet the Rindge's resilience saw them rebuild and fortify their presence in the region. It was here, amid the scenic expanses of Malibu, that Frederick actualized his lifelong dream, a farm by the sea culminating in his purchase of the Malibu Rancho, the last of the Spanish land grants. And Frederick Ringe's deep dive into California's economic and civic life was marked by his founding of the conservative life insurance company, now known as Pacific Life, an institution that still stands today, offering insurance and financial services to millions across the state. Moreover, his strategic roles as vice president of Union Oil Company and director of the Los Angeles Edison Electric Company, later Southern California Edison, underscored his influence in shaping the state's energy and industrial sectors. Southern California Edison, in particular, has grown to become a cornerstone of the region's infrastructure, powering homes, businesses, and the very growth of California itself. But Frederick's ventures were not confined to the shores of Malibu. His investments stretched to include land near Stockton, California, vast real estate holdings in the San Fernando Valley, and even parcels in Sinaloa, Mexico, a place that would much later become notorious as the stronghold of El Chapo, adding a touch of ironic contrast to Ringe's own lawful and civic-minded ventures. However, Frederick Ringe's promising endeavors were cut short when he died suddenly at 48 in 1905. The mantle of responsibility then fell to Rhoda, who found herself at the helm of the extensive Ringe estate. In an era when women seldom held such power, Rhoda May Knight Ringe's ascension to the nickname of Queen of Malibu would become not just noteworthy, but revolutionary. Now, the region today known as Malibu lies within the historical territory of the Chumash people, stretching from the San Joaquin Valley to San Luis Obispo, and encompassing several islands off the southern coast of California. Known for their advanced maritime skills, the Chumash navigated the coastal waters with plank canoes known as tommels, which were crucial for trade and communication among their widespread communities. And the Chumash settlement, known as Humalivo, meaning the surf sounds loudly, reflects the vibrant soundscape of its coastal environment. This name, softened over time to Malibu, resonates with the echo of the waves that still define the area. Occupied since approximately 2500 BCE, Humaliwo was not only a vital Chumash center but also the second largest of the coastal villages. Its significance continued to unfold through history, with Spanish conquistador Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo believed to have anchored at Malibu Lagoon in 1542 to collect fresh water. Then, the Spanish influence was solidified with the establishment of the California mission system and the delineation of Rancho Topanga Malibu Sequit, a sprawling 13,000-acre land grant in 1802. Ownership of this grand expanse passed to Frederick Hastings Ringe in 1891, and after Frederick's death, his widow, May Ringe, took extraordinary measures to protect their estate. She then hired guards to keep trespassers at bay and waged a prolonged legal fight to obstruct the construction of a Southern Pacific Railroad line across their land. And prior to 1929, access to this secluded paradise was limited, with few roads penetrating the area, but the state's victory in a subsequent court case led to the construction of what is now known as the Pacific Coast Highway. This development forced May Ringe to parcel out her holdings, marking the beginning of more extensive public access and development in Malibu. And in an attempt to alleviate her financial woes, Ringe ventured into oil drilling on her property at Point Dume. The endeavor proved fruitless, yet it serendipitously led to the discovery of clay deposits, materials told to be perfect for tile making. You see, during this era, Los Angeles was experiencing a real estate boom, with a surge in the construction of homes styled in the Mission Revival, Mayan Revival, Spanish Colonial Revival, and Moorish Revival architectures, all of which heavily utilized decorative tiles. Seizing this opportunity, Ringe established Malibu Potteries, located a mere half-mile east of her Malibu pier. She enlisted the expertise of Rufus B. Keeler, a renowned tile and glaze specialist, to manage the operations. And at its zenith, Malibu Potteries employed 125 workers and churned out 30,000 square feet of tile each month. The production involved intricate techniques such as cuerda seca and cuenca, and the designs were inspired by diverse books from a well-furnished library at the pottery. Women artisans hand-painted each tile using hazardous substances like cadmium and uranium for vibrant oranges and reds, cobalt for deep blues, and lead for bright yellows. Yet, despite the success of her pottery business, Ringe's financial struggles persisted. In an effort to generate income, she initiated the development of the Malibu movie colony around 1926. This exclusive enclave was designed to attract Hollywood's elite, offering privacy and luxury close to the burgeoning film industry of Los Angeles, and the colony featured beachfront cottages leased to cinema icons such as Clara Bow, Bing Crosby, Gloria Swanson, and Gary Cooper. Furthermore, these residences were quickly constructed by studio carpenters and featured tiles from Ringe's own Malibu potteries. Thus, the Malibu movie colony not only provided Ringe with a new source of income, but also established a glamorous social hub that attracted movie stars and moguls, enhancing Malibu's reputation as a luxury retreat. Concurrently, Ringe embarked on an ambitious personal project, the construction of a lavish 3-wing, 55-room mansion atop Laudamus Hill, intended as a grand statement of her status and success. This residence, often referred to as the Ringe Castle, was to be adorned with extensive use of Malibu pottery's tiles, including a massive all-tile faux Persian carpet. Plans for the mansion also included luxurious hand-carved mahogany details. However, the onset of the Great Depression in 1929, coupled with a devastating kiln fire in 1931 that destroyed much of Malibu potteries, severely impacted Ringe's financial situation, and the financial strain forced Ringe to halt construction of her grand mansion. By 1932, Malibu potteries had closed, and Ringe faced increasing pressure to liquidate her assets. This period marked a significant downturn in her fortunes, leading to the eventual sale of the Malibu movie colony properties. The colony itself, however, continued to thrive and evolve, becoming a permanent fixture in Malibu and a symbol of its ties to Hollywood glamour. Yet, despite her ups and downs, soon the legacy of May Ringe, along with Malibu itself, would be cemented for all eternity. In parallel to the development of the Malibu movie colony, the Malibu Pier was another significant project initiated by the Ringe family. Originally built in 1905 by the aforementioned Frederick Hastings Ringe, May's husband, the pier was constructed to facilitate the transportation of goods for their ranch, which spanned the Malibu coastline. Over the years, the pier's significance extended beyond its practical uses, becoming an integral part of Malibu's cultural fabric. In the 1920s and 1930s, it emerged as a popular destination for tourists drawn to Malibu's sandy beaches and the Pacific Ocean's allure, and the later addition of restaurants, shops, and other amenities during this period further cemented the pier's status as a recreational and social gathering place. Additionally, its role in the community continued to evolve through the decades, serving as a hotspot for surfers in the 60s and fishing enthusiasts in the 70s and 80s. Yet, by 1938, May Ringe found herself financially insolvent, a stark reversal of fortune for a woman who once controlled one of the most extensive private landholdings in California. And her financial demise was exacerbated by strained family relationships, particularly with a son who blamed her for the rapid depletion of the family's wealth due to her relentless court battles and opulent spending habits. May Ringe passed away in 1941, leaving behind a complex legacy, but May's contributions to preserving Malibu's natural environment have had a lasting impact. Today, vast portions of the land she fought so fiercely to protect are integral to the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, including the land on which Pepperdine University sits, 138 acres originally part of the Ringe Ranch, donated by her daughter's family. Surfrider Beach, another gem in Malibu's crown where her historic pier stands, continues to be a celebrated surf spot, protected by the Surfrider Foundation and designated as the world's first ever World Surfing Reserve by the Save the Waves Coalition. It also holds a place on the National Register of Historic Places, and its cultural significance was cemented in 1933 when May granted permission for its use in the filming of the iconic movie King Kong, starring Fay Wray. Thus, Mayringe also played a pivotal role in defining Malibu as a retreat for the affluent and influential figures of the entertainment industry, setting the stage for the city to become a sanctuary for celebrities. Furthermore, the legacy of May's entrepreneurial spirit lives on through the enduring presence of Malibu pottery's tiles, gracing notable structures like Los Angeles City Hall, the Mayan Theater, the Roosevelt Hotel, the Geffen Playhouse, as well as other public buildings throughout the United States and abroad. These days it seems like every two-bit social media influencer and semi-savvy pop star is making $1 billion. Yet much like a sports debate between father and son about how, back in my day, it was much harder to win a championship, the money game played by the family we'll discuss in this video had a totally different set of rules, and making that coveted first $1 billion wasn't easy at all. Indeed, from the very beginning, the world's first billion-dollar media family has been marred in controversy. First, they had arguably the greatest film of all time, made specifically to lampoon its billionaire patriarch, William Randolph Hearst. A few decades later, a family member surprisingly got imprisoned after getting Stockholm Syndrome during a kidnapping by political radicals. All the while, the Hearst almost lost multi-billion-dollar empire in a custody battle due to a bad divorce at the hands of one of their more fanciful heirs. And yet somehow, for more than a century, the Hearst family has managed to keep their coffers not only afloat, but filled to their absolute brims to the tune of over $30 billion as of 2023. With that all said, today's episode of Old Money Luxury will be undoubtedly like no other, as we describe. The Hearst family, the first billionaires of media. In the grand parade of American family sagas, few names ring out as loftily as the Hearsts, a family original hailing from Irish soil, their origin story unspooled in South Carolina back in 1766. Way before anyone even thought of Silicon Valley's tech empires or Hollywood's cinematic aristocracy. Yes, these Hearsts got the ball rolling with a patriarch named George, whose gumption in the mining business could put any venture capitalist to shame. In the mid-19th century, George Hearst left a humble Missouri farm for the glinting allure of California's gold rush. Though he didn't strike it rich immediately, he eventually hit pay dirt, quite literally, with the Homestake Mine in South Dakota. But George wasn't just a miner. He was also a gambler with a knack for scoring in high-stakes games. Winning the San Francisco Examiner in a bet, George branched into publishing, weaponizing the ink to champion Democratic Party causes. He turned a poker hand into a political platform, and honestly, you have to tip your hat to that kind of chutzpah. Yet while George made the money, it was his wife, Phoebe Apperson Hearst, who arguably made the legacy. This matriarch had more than domesticity on her mind. She was a visionary. Starting her career as a schoolteacher, she eventually entered the philanthropic arena, earmarking significant funds for scholarships at the University of California. An international architectural competition for the university also bears her name, as does the less succinctly titled Phoebe A. Hearst Museum of Anthropology. But perhaps her most important project was her only son, William Randolph Hearst. Thanks to a private education and extensive European tours, courtesy of Mama Dearest, young William was groomed for greatness. By 16, he was attending St. Paul's Preparatory School, and although he exited stage left 2 years later, he had a few more acts to go. William then matriculated at Harvard College, where his tenure was as colorful as it was brief. Editor of the Harvard Lampoon and patron saint of beer parties, William's shenanigans even included sending chamber pots featuring professorial likenesses to his educators. Unsurprisingly, he didn't stick around to don a cap and gown. Next, in 1887, William commandeered the Examiner from his dad, and before long made it the linchpin of an emerging media empire. He went on to pioneer the much-debated yellow journalism, sparking a media rivalry with Joseph Pulitzer that had more fireworks than the 4th of July. William's media strategies, questionable though they may have been, did result in expanding his media realm. Come 1919, the establishment of King Features Syndicate had the Hearst name sprawled across multiple media channels, from comic strips to editorials, reaching a readership as broad as his ambitions. But just when you thought William Randolph Hearst had peaked and left his mark, an unseen chapter loomed on the horizon, pregnant with possibility and offering yet another audacious leap. As the Roaring Twenties rolled in, William Randolph Hearst felt an insatiable appetite for expansion. Indeed, he wasn't content with merely ruling the nation's largest newspaper chain. He coveted the ink on glossy magazine pages as well. Now his first magazine nibble was Cosmopolitan. Originating in 1886 as a family-friendly read, Cosmo, as it's colloquially known, underwent several identity shifts before settling into its current iteration as a women's magazine. When Hearst acquired it in 1905, he injected a tantalizing blend of short fiction, public affairs, and the occasional celebrity profile. By 1940, Cosmo was practically a household name, boasting a circulation of a whopping 2 million. But not one to stop at just one magazine acquisition, Hearst snatched up Good Housekeeping in 1911. Catering to American homemakers, the magazine was, and still is, a blend of women's interests, health tips, culinary delights, and consumer reports from the Good Housekeeping Institute. With Hearst's golden touch, subscription numbers soared past 1 million by the 1920s, undeterred even by the grueling years of the Great Depression. When the 1930s dawned, Hearst's avarice turned to radio waves and silver screens. His empire soon ballooned to include 28 newspapers, radio stations, a film studio, a wire service, and a bouquet of 13 magazines. And let's not overlook his silver screen dalliances. Hearst started producing films starring Marion Davies, a woman who was more than just a leading lady in his cinematic ventures. She was his lover for over 3 decades. Yet, even titans stumble. The Great Depression gnawed at Hearst's empire, puncturing his once impervious aura of wealth and influence. The downturn exposed the media mogul's laissez-faire attitude toward spending. As political allegiances shifted, Hearst's once cozy relationship with President Franklin D. Roosevelt soured, and he used his media outlets to accuse Roosevelt's policies of being not too far removed from Bolshevism. Yet perhaps the most biting blow to Hearst's ego came in 1941 with the release of Orson Welles' cinematic critique, Citizen Kane. When Hearst got wind of the film, he deployed an army of Hollywood executives and loyal journalists in an audacious, albeit largely successful, attempt to quash it. Even the FBI was brought into the fray, making Welles's film not just a commercial venture, but almost a matter of national security. All the while, the Hearst Castle in California, standing amidst 123 acres of opulent gardens and terraces, reflected the media tycoon's larger-than-life persona. Created in tandem with architect Julia Morgan over a period of 28 years, this estate wasn't just Hearst's residence. It was a gathering place for the creme de la creme of Hollywood, politics, and sports. Yet for all his grandiosity, Hearst was not immune to the ravages of time or health. As the curtain closed on William Randolph Hearst Sr.'s life in 1951, the prologue to another tale was already being written, hidden in the margins of his voluminous legacy. While Hearst Sr. dazzled his generation with what some called yellow journalism and groundbreaking multi-platform media strategies, the script for the family's sequel was secretly being rehearsed by a cadre of sons. Indeed, the next generation of Hearst children was set to expand the empire into terrains even their illustrious father couldn't have envisioned. Now, William Randolph Hearst Sr. not only amassed a media empire, but also begat a brood of 5 sons: George, William Jr., John, and the twins Randolph and David, and all of them dutifully plunged into the family inkwell and piggy bank. William Jr., born in 1908, elevated the familial calling to Pulitzer Prize-winning artistry. Known for his commitment to both the family enterprise and journalistic integrity, he was, if you will, the family's editorial North Star. David Whitmire Hearst, born 1915, wasn't exactly a byline lightweight either. Starting as a beat reporter for the New York Journal-American in 1936, David navigated a maze of roles, from assistant advertising director at the Baltimore News Post to city editor, and eventually ascended the throne of publisher at the Los Angeles Herald-Express in 1950. His son, David Jr., today holds sway over a sizable share of Hearst Corp., complete with newspapers, magazines, and, because diversification is the name of the game, stakes in cable networks like ESPN and A&E. But it was Patricia Campbell Hearst, an extended family member, who provided one of the most confounding chapters in the family's history. Kidnapped in 1974 by the Symbionese Liberation Army, a radical left-wing group, the abduction took a bizarre turn. The captors intended to swap Hearst for jailed members of their group, but the drama unfolded in an unexpected direction. Instead of remaining a victim, Hearst became an accomplice, participating in criminal activities that included robbery and extortion. Arrested 19 months later, she faced a trial in 1976 and was convicted on charges of bank robbery and illegal use of firearms. While initially sentenced to 7 years, her term was commuted by President Jimmy Carter in 1979. Then the 1980s were transformative for the Hearst Corporation. A strategic pivot toward the burgeoning cable television industry saw the company join forces in ventures like the Arts and Entertainment Network and Lifetime. However, this recalibration was not without its intra-family tensions. It culminated in a lawsuit filed by William Randolph Hearst II against a 1999 merger of Hearst's television stations with Argyle Television, manifesting discord among family members regarding the corporation's future direction. Moving into the 1990s, the Hearst Corporation deepened its cable TV footprint by acquiring a 20% stake in ESPN, followed by investments in French television production and distribution firms associated with Canal+. By the late 90s, the company had morphed into one of the largest independently owned broadcasting groups in the nation, with its television and radio stations reaching a whopping 17% of all US households. Thus, when the 20th century drew to a close, the Hearst Corporation had its fingers in more pies than a competitive eater at a county fair. With a broadcast empire that reached into nearly 1/5 of American homes, they were the proverbial 800-pound gorilla in the room of media conglomerates. But as the calendar flipped to a new millennium, a different kind of beast was emerging: the digital age. This posed a challenge, but also an unprecedented opportunity. Now, William Randolph Hearst III, a Harvard-educated math whiz, spent decades ascending the corporate ladder, even donning the hat of editor and publisher of the San Francisco Examiner, echoing his grandfather's tenure. Simultaneously juggling roles as director and philanthropic trustee for over 3 decades, he's essentially the de facto patriarch. His cousin, George Randolph Hearst Jr., presided over the Hearst Corporation's board like a symphony conductor until his 2012 swan song. Leaving behind 4 offspring, including George Randolph Hearst III, he kept the family enterprise humming in harmony for more than 40 years. Then there's John Randolph Bunky Hearst Jr., the favorite grandchild of William Randolph Hearst, who was indeed a controversial figure in the Hearst family. His life escapades include twice-divorced status, race car adventuring, and editorial pursuits. But his dalliance with matrimony took a darker turn when his nuptials to Barbara cascaded into a legal scrimmage that rocked the gilded Hearst corridors. After Barbara sought a divorce, alleging everything from abandonment to inhumane treatment, a court drama unfolded, replete with a plot to allegedly drain Bunky's financial reservoir. Legal acrobatics took center stage in 2006 when Bunky's counsel designed a cunning plan: sue Barbara for fraud. If the court was convinced Barbara had performed financial sleight of hand, she'd have to return his assets. Unfortunately, the spotlight on this soap opera momentarily veered toward Hearst Corp's confidential ledger. Ultimately, Bunky withdrew his claims, ending the legal tempest, but not before exposing uncomfortable family and corporate financial particulars. Moving on to the more spiritual side of the family, we could say Victoria Hearst, an evangelical outlier among socialite siblings Anne and Patty, adds a dash of ideological spice to the family tableau. Her convictions starkly contrast the family's more conventional views, providing journalists with ample fodder for stories on family dynamics. And philanthropy is another family forte. Involved in the Pocantico Declaration in 1999, the Hearsts promised to marshal their assets for public welfare, demonstrating that their riches aren't solely reserved for Hearst Castle upkeep or high society galas. As we veered into the 21st century, Hearst Corporation grappled with the digital revolution, and the year 2000 proved a Rubicon moment. Balancing a print legacy with the bite-sized attention spans of the internet age, Hearst made strides, including strategic acquisitions and digital overhauls. 8 years deep into the digital shift, and another plot twist, the 2008 financial meltdown. A saga in itself, the crisis disrupted global economies, pressing media entities like Hearst to hasten their transformation into digital juggernauts. However, for those corporations with a well-balanced portfolio and multiple income channels, like Hearst Corporation, the bumpy ride of market fluctuations turned into more of a manageable seesaw. Yet, even as the family comfortably steered the Hearst ship to seemingly placid waters, little did anyone know that the winds of change were about to pick up, setting the stage for another significant shift in the company's leadership. In 2012, the corridors of Hearst Corporation felt a seismic shift as a figurative family baton passed hands. The venerable George Randolph Hearst Jr., board chairman and patriarch in every sense, drew his last breath. It was the proverbial end of an era, and you can think of it sort of like a classic episode of HBO's Succession in terms of family dynamics. Enter stage right, Stephen R. Schwartz, the understudy you didn't know was about to steal the show, again, much like Succession. Schwartz, once the company's chief operating officer, ascended to the throne of president and CEO in 2013. With 2 decades of Hearstian experience under his belt, he piloted the media empire through a landscape that saw not just growth, but a blossoming of innovative diversification. Furthermore, in 2015, Hearst threw its hat into the real estate ring. They ventured into a 4-acre slice of downtown San Francisco with the aptly named 5M project. Hearst didn't go it alone, though, sharing the spoils with Forest City Realty Trust. A lucrative contract ensured Forest City would have a gleaming new office tower and a 288-unit apartment building to their name, while Hearst cozied up to its Chronicle and Examiner buildings like a comfort blanket. And the same year saw Hearst partnering with the Georgetown Company to breathe new life into the iconic Herald Examiner building. Picture it. Creative office spaces mingle with the aroma of artisanal coffee and the buzz of commerce. This isn't just real estate. It's Hearst applying a Midas touch to mortar and bricks. Fast forward to the 2020s, and the Hearst family's reach has stretched its tentacles into diverse and engaging avenues. Among the newer branches on the family tree, Lydia Marie Hearst Shaw and Gillian Hearst Shaw are more than just ornamental. Lydia, a great-granddaughter of the original media magnate William Randolph Hearst, balances her life as a fashion model, actress and lifestyle blogger with the ease of a Wall Street juggler. Her fashion line, Lydia Hearst for Puma, speaks to a new generation of style mavens. Her sister Gillian, while a tad more reserved, adds her own brand of social allure to the Hearst name. She juggles the responsibilities of being a single mother and a socialite, a modern Renaissance woman in her own digital domain. And while you might peg them as mere purveyors of newsprint and pixel, Hearst Corp is a giant squid in a global media ocean. Under the chairmanship of William R. Hearst III, the family business has amassed an astonishing portfolio. Think ESPN and a slew of financial information services. And lest we forget, a family fortune that hovers around the $30 billion mark. And so the world's first billion-dollar media dynasty is, much like many families, flawed but trying to always improve, experiencing ups and downs, valleys and peaks, but a lot more coins in the bank than most of us.